into the final act of the play. It is one of the really fascinating parts of all of Shakespeare's plays, the way this play ends. And what we'll do now really quickly is just have a quick chat about what happens in Act 5, scenes 1 and 2. Now, Act 5, scene 1 is all about building anticipation. Again, I'm not reading this summary. Don't forget, in your book, we're on page 56, and your job is to read the summary. I'm going to explain the key quotes, but essentially here's what happens in Act 5, scene 1. We have Edgar and Albany and the letter. That's the key development. Well, one of them. We know that Edgar is disguised. He's no longer poor Tom. He's disguised as a peasant, but he has these letters because he killed Oswald and got the correspondence. So he gives those to Albany, and those letters contain evidence of Goneril's conspiracy with Edmund to kill Albany. So we know that Albany will use that information in the final scene of the play. So that creates a great amount of tension and anticipation. We know that Edmund has risen to a position of great authority. Regan places him in charge of her armies because her husband Cornwall is dead. And Edmund, we can see his sense of authority, his sense that he is close now to that pinnacle, the top that he's been aiming for throughout the play. But one of the really interesting things that just reinforces what we already know about Edmund is the way he responds to Albany in this scene. Albany is the more powerful man. What does Edmund do when somebody has power over him? Well, he does what Goneril and Regan did in Act 1, Scene 1. He flatters them in order to manipulate them. He flattered his brother Edgar. He flattered Gloucester. He flattered Cornwall. He flattered Goneril. He flattered Regan. This is a tactic he has used throughout the play to try and gain advantage. But his obsequious attitude, see that word there? I'll put it in the knowledge checks. To be obsequious is to use the colloquial term, to lick up to somebody, to be servile towards them, to bow and scrape towards them. His obsequious attitude, his sycophantic, flattering attitude is all an act. It's all fake. But the thing is that it doesn't work on Albany. Albany is going to use Edmund to win the battle in just the same way as Edmund plans to use Albany. So again, that creates a real sense of uncertainty about what's going to happen. At the end of the scene, and we look at this quote now, the quotes now, there's one of the great soliloquies that Shakespeare ever wrote, and it should be more famous than it is. And again, guess who it's spoken by? Edmund. When we write about soliloquies, we always think it To Be or Not to Be by Hamlet, or Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Macbeth, but Edmund is responsible for some of the greatest soliloquies, and he speaks one of them at the end of this scene, in which he says, look, when the battle's over, if I have Lear and Cordelia, I'm going to kill the two of them, right? And then he says, see these two sisters, Goneril and Regan, whichever one of them, if they want to kill each other, grand, whichever one of them survives, that's the one who I'll marry, and I'll then take their power. So his plan is laid out to us and creates this suggestion to us as an audience that really, could Edmund actually win here? Could that be what Shakespeare's doing in this play? Describing the rise of, corruption and evil, and how evil, corrupt people come to power when there's a vacuum in the natural order. So that sense of anticipation is very powerful in the scene. So let's have a look at the key quotes. We're over onto page 57 now. So we see in this first quote the power that Edmund has over Regan. She says, now, sweet lord, you know the goodness I intend upon you. So that means Regan, of course, she's a queen, and if she takes him as her husband, that's what she intends to do. That's really good for him. So she's arrogant as well, and she's powerful, but of course we know that he's manipulating her. And her jealousy is there. Tell me but truly, but then speak the truth. Do you not love my sister? And that jealousy between Regan and Goneril, which becomes so poisonous, excuse the pun, you know what I'm referring to, is evident there. Goneril's jealousy is evident when she says, I had rather lose the battle than that sister should loosen him and me. So Goneril, like Regan, is obsessed with Edmund. She You know, if she loses the battle, she loses her crown, she loses her status, she loses her money, she loses everything. But she says, I'd rather lose everything than lose him. So this is Shakespeare emphasising just how important Edmund is to Goneril and Regan. And of course, that emphasises the power he has over them. Albany, again, not a huge amount to mark here, just looking at some of the key moments from the scene. Albany talks about how Lear has come to his daughter, so that's Cordelia, with others, whom the rigour of our state forced to cry out. So Albany is there saying that he has sympathy with Lear, sympathy with Kent, sympathy, well, he doesn't know that it's Kent, but sympathy with those who have flocked to Lear, who have gone over to Cordelia's side, because he says, we have governed badly. The rigours of our state forcing to cry out. That's a reference to how if power is used in a despotic way, in a tyrannical way, if violence is used as a means of government, and of course this is what Goneril and Regan have done, they've become despots. If we treat, Albany is saying, people like that, of course they're going to rebel. So it's interesting, Albany, his sympathies lie with Cordelia and Lear, but of course he has to fight for Britain because this business, it touches us as France invades our land. So Albany knows what his duty is. He's torn. His sympathies lie not with his wife and her faction, but with Cordelia and Lear. But he's a dutiful man, a patriotic man. And he knows if France invades, his duty is simple: fight to protect his nation. Edgar produces the letter that becomes such an important plot device for the way the play ends. He approaches Albany. Albany doesn't know who he is. He's in disguise. And he says, before you fight the battle, ope this letter. If you have victory, let the trumpet sound for him that brought it. Wretched though I seem, I can produce a champion that will prove what is avouched there. And I love that juxtaposition between wretched and champion in that moment, because isn't this a big part of our play, that appearance and reality don't always merge, that what appears to be something is not always the case. So Kent to Lear appeared to be disloyal and disrespectful, and so did Cordelia in Act 1, Scene 1. That wasn't the case. Lear appeared to be humble when he said he was abdicating because he wanted to crawl towards death. That wasn't the case. Goneril and Regan appeared to love their father when they told him that in Act 1, Scene 1. That wasn't the case. Edmund appeared to be a loving brother and a loyal son. That's not the case. So often in the play we have a difference between appearance and reality, and Edgar says, look, I may look like nothing, but I can be a champion. I can play a significant role in helping you win. I love that. But of course, look, Edmund is the man. And the scene ends with this really quite brilliant soliloquy. And just listen to his arrogant, boastful, vain words. To both these sisters have I sworn my love. Which of them shall I take? Both? One? Or neither? We'll use, he says that, so there he is talking about Goneril and Regan, to both these sisters have I sworn my love. When he says take, it's like he sees them as a utility, a tool to be used and abused and thrown away. Later in the speech, he refers to Albany and he says, we'll use his countenance. This is Edmund all over. He'll use people to achieve his goals and then discard them. We'll use his countenance for the battle, which being done, let her who would be rid of him devise his speedy taking off. I'm going to use Albany to win the battle because he's a general and a leader. As soon as the battle is over, I'm going to get Goneril to kill him. Ruthless, Machiavellian, wicked, duplicitous, fascinating. And then the lines that really, really add tremendous weight to the way the play ends. As for the mercy which he intends to Lear and to Cordelia, the battle done, and they within our power shall never see his pardon. And then I'm going to actually change the colour of this because I just love it so much. this is just, you know, there are certain quotes, and if you know them, it's going to let you say, you know, really so much about the play. And there's a quote: "My state stands on me to defend, not to debate." At the beginning of the play, he said, "All with me's meet that I can fashion fit." And here he is saying, my state stands on me to defend, not to debate. And again, I've referred to this before in a previous video. It just reminds me so much of Derek Mahon's poem, As It Should Be, where the fanatic dismisses all idle talk of the moon in the Yellow River. There is no moral debate for Edmund. Morality is a waste of time. It's a hindrance, an obstacle to him achieving his goals. So if it means killing a king and committing regicide, which is, you know, a heinous crime, if it means killing Cordelia, who even he can see is the epitome of all that's good in humanity, if it means those things for him to achieve his goals, no question, no debate, he'll do it. And then we go, wow, what's going to happen next? Very quickly before this video ends, I just want to go and talk briefly about Act 5, Scene 2, which is on, the summary's on page 58, really quickly. This is, of course, the scene where we learn that... Sorry, no, there we go. We learn that Cordelia and the French forces have been defeated, that Lear and Cordelia have been captured, and given what we know Edmund intends to do, and given we know how ruthless Edmund is and how successful he's being, that does not bode to be very promising. And then at the end of the scene, we have Edgar, and he delivers a speech where he says he's determined to persevere, and this is very important because Shakespeare is reminding us of Edgar's strengths and reminding us that he's not the weak fop, innocent fop or dupe fool of the beginning of the play. He's a tough, hardened man now, still maintaining a morality and a set of principles that guide him. So when the play ends, as it's going to in the next scene, and when he is handed the crown at the end of the play, the audience go, okay, that makes sense. He might do a good job. So that's Act 5, Scenes 1 and 2. Next, into the final scene of the play.